5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Who decided this was the way to do
I
this?
don't know. Maybe council should have a discussion about.
Okay,
Is it
I
going?
think we're live.
All right, awesome. And it is 6:59 still, so I still got a few moments. Still got a few. It's 7 p.m. Here we go.
Because you totally don't want anybody to call you on that.
All right, here we go. Oh, damn it! I was so close. Hold on. Dang it. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Let's see if I can get this.
Okay, we are live. Okay.
Mayor, can you opt out of mask wearing?
I'm so close. So close. Go.
Mayor,
Still within the 7 o'clock hour. Yeah.
we noticed that you're not wearing a mask. Is that same rule apply to us as well?
I'm 6 feet apart from everybody. I've told you that in the past. I'm indoors. I'm fully vaccinated. I mean, I
I'm
don't.
fully vaccinated.
No. Get 6 feet. Get 6 feet apart. I believe the rules were if you were 6 feet apart, you were good. That's what I was told. I just lost my.
I can't keep track.
What have I been vaccinated?
That's a question for your doctor.
I identify.
Well, the CDC said you could.
Yes, thank you. Where's my button? Okay, we're recording. Good God. Come on. Sorry, everybody online. Stand by.
You only get the best equipment here at the council meetings.
Oh, because I hit the wrong damn button. There we go. Operator error. Yeah, I won't admit to that. But yes, that's exactly what's happening. All right. Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, March 17, 2021. It is 7:01 p.m. We had a few technical difficulties there. I'll take the blame for that. This is a regular meeting for the City Council of Woodland, Washington. All council members are currently present. If I can get everyone to silence your cell phones and please remain muted if you are joining us online, and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Whew. God, I was always doing so good and then something happens. I'm going to start with roll call this evening. Councilmember Rounds.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Here.
Councilmember Plaza.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Holland.
Present.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
All council members are here this evening. Thank you very much. I have a proclamation to read this evening into the record. It is National Public Works Week, May 16th through the 22nd, 2021. Whereas the public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support and understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, and highways, public buildings, and solid waste collection. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depend on the facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, William A. Finn, do hereby recognize the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2021 as National Public Works Week, and I call this help me out. Thank you, I can't say it. To the attention of all our citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated the 17th day of May, 2021. And it is because of public works we are able to turn on our water faucets and flush our toilets and drive on roads most of the time. But yay, thank you very much to them. If you get an opportunity this week, please make sure and you see Public Works out, give them a honk, give them a wave, tell them thank you. They do a lot for our city. And with that, I will take citizen communication for those present. No one. All the hoopla I saw while I was on vacation, I'm surprised this place just isn't packed tonight. So, I have no one signed in this evening.
Really?
Yeah, but we do have some folks that have joined us online this evening. If you'd like to step forward to speak to items not on the agenda, now's your opportunity to step forward. Please just unmute yourself so I know you'd like to speak. Seeing no one, moving on to items on the agenda. Again, a lot of hoopla and still no one here packed the house. So, now's this opportunity for those online to join us for items on the agenda you'd like to speak to. Just unmute yourself if you'd like to speak. Thank you, Mrs. Hollis. Seeing none.
Mr. Examiner?
Oh, Mr. Examiner. Yes, that's me.
Sorry.
Mr. Goddard.
City of Woodland. There was a public records request regarding one of the items that is on the agenda today, and the documents that were requested have to do with that. So I believe
Yes.
there may be somebody who has questions or comments regarding that particular issue.
Yes, thank you for
but
reminding me.
She may or may not be available at this time. So is it possible to have this question asked when you get to that item on the agenda?
What I'll do is everyone familiar? There's a question on the table from a citizen. Is it in regards to the email we received?
The
Or is this
bid sheets for Gorick.
Okay, gotcha. Did council receive that email with the citizen communication?
I believe the members of the finance committee received it,
Okay.
and I'm going to pull it from the consent agenda to discuss.
It's actually action item E.
Is it moved actually?
It's always been an action item. It was never on
Oh,
consent.
sorry, I misread that.
So you'll have your opportunity to discuss that.
That's great.
So are we good? So did everybody, I was requested that I read that into the record. I'm not going to take 10 minutes to do that. So if council hasn't seen that, then you haven't seen it? Is there a council member that could share? Do you have a copy of?
I don't have it printed, but I can forward it to you.
Okay, perfect. There we go. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. So when we get to that, council will have opportunity to discuss, since it is an action item this evening, not on consent agenda. Mr. Goddard?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, Mrs. Holland.
So in all the years that I used to come to these meetings, I don't recall that being a thing,
What's that?
that somebody gets to request that you...
You can, just not always do we do it, and sometimes we do, depending on time. Sometimes they're attached to the agenda. They will be made part of the minutes when it's published. So it's not like it's going anywhere. It's just we tried to get it to council in enough time. We did receive the communication, so I'll let you in on that. Okay? Anything else, Mr. Goddard, on that topic?
No, thank you.
Thank you. And I think I like the title of Examiner. Moving on to agenda approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion has passed. Moving on to reports of City Council. Oh, Mr. Plaza. Mr. Plaza.
I'll make this quick. So a few weeks ago, or a few meetings ago, I had made the announcement that I wasn't going to be running for office, but after some consideration, I decided to follow the lead of Barack Obama and evolve my thinking on that subject. And so I am now, I have filed to run again, and so I look forward to seeing what happens in November.
Congratulations. Any other reports this evening? Mrs.
I
Rounds?
will just report that I am filing tomorrow for
Oh.
this position again, so.
Well, all right. Thank you, Mrs. Rounds. Let's give a round of applause to Mrs. Rounds. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Mr. Fredericks?
And I'm just going to reiterate that I will not be running again. So I look forward to seeing some new folks, new faces, and I hope they're prepared to work, because there's going to be a lot of work that comes before this board.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Fredericks. But let's clap that Mr. Fredericks isn't running again. Too soon? Is it too soon? Too soon?
Not at all.
Not at all. All right. All right. Anyone else? Seeing none. All right. So moving on to reports of standing committees. Public safety. Mrs. Graham.
Our police department, there is, Chief Kelly informed us today that there's a potential interlocal agreement with your Columbia SWAT team for a vehicle purchase of a new Bearcat light armored vehicle, and there would be an annual fee contributed by each city involved in this for the purchase of the vehicle, and maintenance, that sort of thing that goes along with it. So it is still something that is, more information will be coming, so it's a possibility. And then we suggested that it be brought, when that is all together solidly, that we'll bring it before council. And Chief informed us that there is one vacancy left to be filled on the department. And once that is done, we'll have a full roster. Let's see. We have one that is on field training and is doing very well. One officer has begun his field training and is doing very well. And then we have our officer that has been in academy will be graduating on May the 26th, and we were informed that Mayor Finn would swear him in on the 27th.
At 5 p.m.
Okey-dokey.
Here.
And we have 2 new vehicles that are pending and hope to take delivery soon. And the meeting was adjourned at 6:11. And our next meeting is on let's see, today is May 17th. Because if we do our change in scheduling, it'll be the first Monday in June.
So the 7th.
Yes.
Okay.
And for the date.
Anything regarding the fire station
No.
with fire truck? Was that discussed today?
Yes.
Oh, maybe we already discussed it.
Jackson was not in today.
Oh, gotcha. So Chief Jackson informed us today that, and I don't know if we've discussed it openly in here or if it was just
No, it hasn't.
about they're getting a new fire truck that will be done ceremonially, somehow pushed into the station at some point, and they're going to let us know. But our old fire truck will be surplus, but that is actually being transferred over to the Lewis River facility for storage once the new one comes here. So their new Clark County Fire and Rescue, we're not Clark County Fire, Clark Cowlitz Fire and Rescue rig will actually be coming to Woodland and stationed here, which is nice. So I know that we've gone into the annexation process and that's been approved and that happens next year, but we're already seeing positive signs that we're moving forward and we're getting new equipment already before we get here. So they're going to house that here. So that's exciting. So thank you.
And the chief is looking forward to doing a presentation ceremony when we can have those meetings.
Yes, which I think is
Honor quite a few people in our department in the area.
June, we're hoping. Fingers crossed for, I think, second meeting in June, maybe. Maybe I'd like first one, but I don't know if that's going to happen, so we'll see. All right. Mr. Fredericks, did you have something?
No, I just wondering if there was a cake involved.
Yes. That was the request. Refreshments.
Excellent.
We'll make sure this is.
We'll make sure there's cake or cookies or something. Yes. All right. Questions for Mrs. Graham? Seeing none. Public Works. Mr. Smith.
Public Works met today at 5 p.m. Our next meeting is, I can't remember. What is it? It's
The
getting
7th?
changed, I think, on this meeting, so it'll be the 7th now it's meeting? Okay. June 7th at typically 5:30, but this one was a bit early for personal reasons. So we did talk about the Gorig Street project that's on our agenda tonight, and there is a expedited timeline on that project. We are trying to tie it with the county to save some costs, and so with it being tied to the county didn't get their bids out until May 4th. Once they got their bids out, the contractor came back and said that they could not do the original planned job because of some major repairs that needed to be done. So with that, the city now has to get some quotes to try to get the major work done before the county starts its project. So that's what the expedited timeline is, to try to get that done.
We did get the bid in today, though.
They did get the bid in today.
Yeah.
I think
With
that is,
LLC, remember?
and I think there was prices on the sheet here.
Yes.
And there was also some questions about why there was no amount budgeted on there. And the reason why it wasn't released until today is because they did not want the budget to be, the bids to be skewed by knowing the city's budget, so that they can get accurate bids to make sure that they are getting the lowest cost, and people just aren't using the budget amount to try to get the job awarded to them. So this project should start ASAP. I think the county is starting in June. So we need to get ours done before then. So in order for us to stay tied with the county, and the reason why they want to stay tied with the county is that we can get a better project price if we stay tied with the county on this. I think we'll be discussing it more in full tonight. If there's any questions, we'll go from there. And then some of the other stuff we discussed, Scott Hill Booster Pump should be completed by June 1st. The city completed about 25 pothole repairs throughout the city. Spruce, Rhododendron, and Madrona Street are all going to get chip sealing redone this year. The city is in the actively looking for a street laborer position right now. I don't think they've had a lot of active interest in it, and so anybody who is interested for that position, it's a full-time position through the summer work. So I would get your applications in. Doesn't sound there's like a lot of interest in it, so somebody might have a good chance of getting a job. The city also got the hanging baskets put up around the city, downtown area there. It sounds like there was a little bit of delay. The baskets weren't ready to be put out from Sagawa, so they waited a little bit to put them out to make sure that they were healthy enough to survive.
The flowers were in quarantine.
The flowers were in quarantine?
Yeah, until it was safe to come out.
So they're not blossoming yet? You gotta wait.
That was the,
Wait for the
Sorry.
governor.
I couldn't help myself, I'm sorry.
Gorig Street, when the project does get underway, will be torn up for about a month and a half, and from the Visitor Center all the way to the plaza. So there will be some delays on that road during that time. It's supposed to be a major overhaul of that road. The city was awarded some grants. Seems like the Federal Highway Crossing Program grant. I can't remember exactly which one that was. The West Scott Avenue Crossing, and the Rural County Public Facilities Fund grant, and that is the Davidson Railroad Waterline Crossing. The EOC is about 50% complete right now. If you're not sure what EOC is, that's the Emergency Operations Center that they are working on here. The mold remediation is completed at 100 Davison, and they're starting to fill out applications for the Exit 21 grants. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Smith? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Good job.
All right, moving on to reports of officers. Mr. Boyce is not here this evening. He had a family emergency he had to tend to, so I'm going to do my best for his report, and I'll do that real quick before I do mine, because I'm going to talk for a little bit this evening. we're requesting that you hold June 1st, 2021 for a special meeting. It is a Tuesday, it's the day after Memorial Day. So we're asking that council be advised that we are looking at making a special meeting that evening. Our hearings examiner approved after much testimony and things like that, for the RV facility that would be going on over on Belmont Loop. There's been some opposition to that. It went through the process, and the hearings examiner, not the planning commission, approved the project based on the applicant's stuff or the items that were submitted, and made the decision based on that. So we're anticipating through the conversations that there will be an appeal process, and the way that appeal process works is that whichever side comes out the non-victorious has the opportunity to appeal that decision, and it sounds like we will be going through that process, and that appeal is brought before City Council to make the decision whether or not to allow the operation to be built, I guess, or the construction of the facility. So with that said, I want to remind each and every one of you that any communication that you have on this topic will need to be divulged at the time of the appeal process. So the special meeting is to inform you on what's going on and what to expect moving forward, in an opportunity, almost like a workshop that we can have, so you can get the ins and outs and understand both sides of what's going on here with this project. Before moving forward to make a decision the following meeting. There's a timeline that's involved here, so we have to have it before June 4th, or June 3rd. So first, second, or third, we said the first, it's the first day, it's a Tuesday, so of the month, we'll just get it done, and then coming back on the 7th of June, you will be discussed, and I believe a decision will need to be had from council. So Mr. Randolph, I'm going to kick it over to you real quick just to remind them what the rules and parameters are when it comes to this topic.
Right, it's the same material that's sent out on appearance of fairness topic. Basically, make sure that you don't have any conflicts on that. But the major thing is that you can talk about it, but if you talk about it beforehand, you need to divulge those conversations. So, if you can avoid conversations, that's probably worthwhile. If you can't, you need to remember to divulge it.
Mr. Smith?
So prior to this becoming an issue, I had already booked a vacation for June 21st, so I will not be here. Make that very clear.
You said June 20, it's June 1st.
June 1st, we are having this meeting, not the 21st?
June 1. Did I say 21?
I heard 21.
No, first. I heard first.
Well,
Clearly, you're already on vacation.
I take back everything I said at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Randolph, please continue. Any questions in regards to that, Mr. Fredericks?
I personally have received about 5 to 10 emails, I'd be guessing. I have not read a single one of them, but you can tell they're all about that project. Is there a way that someone can go in and just get those, or do I have to print them off and bring them in here? Every one of them. How should that process look like? Do I need to print them off and bring them here for the record?
I mean, I think that would be the safe thing to do.
Okay.
The easiest thing to do, unless you wish to describe it.
It's okay, I'll just submit my printer ink, which is becoming very expensive. I'll just submit a receipt there, Mr. Mayor.
Sounds good, thank you.
Sounds great.
Yes, or just send me the type you need and I'll go get you.
Okay,
And I'll
thank
drop it off at your doorstep.
That's very nice of you.
I'm a servant leader.
Print them in color too, so you can see
Yeah.
color.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Randolph on this topic? Oh, Mr. Goddard.
We could make those documents available. Just send a email to me at the office, and I will print as many copies as are requested.
I'll do that, Mr. Goddard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So it's the same rules as last time. We've already had this discussion. This is just a reminder and to inform you that we're expecting an appeal. So the conversation is not over yet, and you'll need to make a decision based on that appeal.
Oh.
Mr. Frederick.
So are we set up to have folks who want to come here? Because I'm imagining there's going to be a few people that are going to want to speak on that.
Absolutely.
Are we going to be set up in a fashion that will allow that in an orderly way to be that will happen in person and over the phone if folks feel that they're not
they don't want to come?
Yes,
in
thank
person?
you for saying that.
Mr.
Yes.
Goddard, is during that special meeting, will we be taking public testimony that time, or will we be waiting until a regular meeting?
On the 7th.
So as an appeal hearing, it is considered a closed record, meaning that it has to be information that is currently in the land use file. Parties of record, which is a legal term for land use cases. Parties of record can request to give testimony, and I know that several parties of record are pooling their money and their comments to file the appeal. But they recognize that they will submit writing and try to limit their in-person testimony, although any one of them could request to attend and give testimony.
And that would be during that special meeting?
Yes.
Okay. What about the average citizen who's just learning about this and says, before a decision is made, there's no decision being made at this special meeting, it would be during a regular meeting, correct?
So there will be a decision made at it.
Oh, okay.
But
I apologize.
appeals are a special case. You have to be a party of record, which means you need to have participated in the land use process. And you needed to meet certain legal standings, like giving your name and address on the record. So even if they called and attended the meeting, if they didn't give testimony and they didn't state their name and address for the record, they would not be parties of record necessarily.
Okay. So there,
we will screen all of the written comments at least 5 days before the meeting, and we will coordinate with the testimony, and if they are not qualified to meet the party of record standards and make comments, we will notify them ahead of time, and we will notify you at the meeting whether they're parties of record.
so anybody that's just learning this just can't walk in off the street or provide testimony to it either way?
Yep.
Mr. Randolph?
Yes, sir, and also this is a formal appeal procedure, it's not just a special hearing, and what happens is that basically they are limited, their appeal is basically saying that the hearing is only made in the state. So the issue had to be raised and addressed in planning, and likewise new arguments can happen. So there is a very detailed hearing examiners where we address a lot of the questions, so probably need to study that because we can't go outside of what the questions.
Do you have the specific material on that
Yeah.
we could read?
We have it. I'm sure, Travis, can we get copies early to the city council from the hearing examiner's report? Because that's pretty lengthy and it took me some time to go through it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, thank you.
I will work on printing those tomorrow and get them to you. The deadline for appeal is tomorrow at 5. So if they submit an official appeal by tomorrow at 5, I will start the printing on Wednesday and have them ready to distribute the record by Wednesday.
We'll get them to
Well,
you.
I was going to say you can't get in to get.
No, I'll coordinate with Travis and get them out to you. Okay. Oh, okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, so we'll notify you if that appeal has been filed, and then if so, I'll make sure that those materials arrive at your doorstep. How's that? Okay.
And if there's appeal, then we'll have a meeting first.
Yes.
Okay.
So if there is no appeal, there will be no meeting on June 1st. That is correct. Okay. In the event, Mr. Randolph, just for my own knowledge, in the event that there is only 6 council members that arrive and a tie vote or a 3-3 vote is given, am I a tiebreaker on this, on land use issues?
I will check.
Okay.
Get back to you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
That's starting at 7 p.m. June 1st?
It would start at 7 p.m., yes. Okay. Any other questions on that topic? All right. There's a Planning Commission meeting on May 20th at 7 p.m. We do have a vacancy on the Planning Commission. One of the commissioners has resigned, vacating one of the positions. So we will advertise for that and hopefully get a qualified, interested applicant for that board.
Who resigned, Mayor?
Do those have to be inside city limits?
Yes, those are inside city limits, yes. Miss Tiffany Witten? Yes. In regards to action item E this evening, Mr. Smith spoke to that. We had a very in-depth conversation during our executive team meeting this morning, and it had to do with the overlay project on Garrett Street. So this project has been going on for a year. Public Works received a grant for this. This wasn't something that was done in haste, although it's been made to sound that way, but due to COVID, there was some delay. That project was supposed to be done last year, but due to COVID, it was kind of reeled back in. So I just want to make it clear that this wasn't, I trust Ms. Coleman and the job that she's done here in full transparency. I think that we're doing that. We were under a deadline. We were just notified that, again, we've talked about this in council all the time, the dilapidation of infrastructure within the city, and that is the reason for this conversation this evening. Grind and overlay, according to Ms. Coleman, she's not here this evening either due to family situation, requires a 2-inch grind down and then a repave. If you look at Garrett Street, once it was inspected, there's hardly anything. If you go down the road, you will see that there are high areas on the curb and low areas on the curb and so on through there was no way that the contractor could come in, grind it, and repave it. So there has to be work that is done to the infrastructure itself, to the roadway itself, before that roadway can be repaved. So that's what these are for. And again, the money was were grant dollars. So if we don't spend them, if we choose not to do this, we're going to end up sending those dollars back, which is fine if that's what council decides to do. But just so you understand that there's a small match that we had to make on this project. The majority of this money that is being spent on these repairs to get it paved, which is desperate. If you've ever gotten coffee from Red Leaf, you'll know when you come out of there that you are behind onto a city street because the roadway has virtually non-existent anymore right there. So those are the types of things that will be repaired during this, if approved this evening. So I just think it's important that we understand that there are always concerns from community members, and not everything that we do here is agreed upon or felt that is necessary to occur, but in order for one project to get done, this other project has to happen, of course. Just like the booster station up at Scott Hill Park. We can't put in a park until we have water up there. There's money that has to be spent there so we can get water up there so we can complete the project. This is very similar to that. These repairs need to be done before we can complete the project. So, although it appears it was done in haste, it was not. It was short-term. We just found out. So I ask that council approve action item E this evening is what I'm asking for. There's been a lot of talk about marijuana retail sales in the city of Woodland again. At this time, I want to make it clear that there are no retail sales occurring at this time within the city limits of Woodland. There has been some signs and some items that have been visible to the community, which has indicated that there are retail sales occurring inside the city limits, which is not something that is allowed within our code. But at this time, there is no violation of anything except for a sign. So I just want everyone to understand that if there are retail sales going on, the city is prepared to act and take action through code enforcement. So we are not just standing by and allowing things to happen. I want council to think that we're not acknowledged that. Mr. Dowd's office has been in contact with the business owner, but again, no retail sales are occurring at this moment right now. But if they do, the city will not be standing by, and we'll treat this property owner just as we would anyone else that was working outside the boundaries of the rules. So, and I am back from vacation. Thank you. Yes, I brought back 2 souvenirs, an extra 6 pounds, and this mustache. That I just want everyone to know that I'm growing this out until the end of the month. My wife is wanting me to shave it, so I'm going to give it 1 month. 1 month, and I think I look pretty dapper with it. So, questions?
I can't see it.
Councilmember Rounds, this is what we call a 12-day grow out.
I get
Give me another week. Give me another week.
Okay.
When I drop off your packet, if there's appeal, I might let you touch it. Mr. Fredericks, you have a question?
Okay, I don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Do you know, when's our next WQCC meeting?
Ooh, great question. I believe. Stand by. How many have we had this year so far?
I haven't
I'm
been to one.
going back. I'm asking myself that.
Okay.
I think we've only had the one so far. There's typically 3 in a year. One happens around October. One happens in.
I went to one and I think I missed one, so that's
Yeah, the second one, Pete said he would send out minutes once they happen, but there was one that.
Mr. Randolph, were you part of that? Do you recall? I know that you were part of the first one. Was there a second follow-up meeting?
I attended one this year.
Okay.
Was there another one?
There was supposed to be another. There should have been. Not. I don't think it's occurred then. No. So we've only had the one. So I can get back to you and when that next.
I thought it
meeting
was in May, and so that's why I'm asking.
Oh.
So maybe not.
Well, I think there was some communication errors that were going on between entities. The city had set some dates, and then additional dates had come out from another entity, and those are the dates that were being followed. So I'm not sure when the next meeting is. To answer your question, Mr. Fredericks.
Okay, another question?
Fire away, Mr. Fredericks.
Has anybody done an analysis on what revenue would be generated from a marijuana store?
Yes, there's been some internal projections that have been done. Mr. Goddard, maybe you can answer that a little bit. I mean, I could answer it, but I'll leave it to you since you're the expert.
So, Melissa Johnston has talked to the State Liquor Control Board and the taxing agency, and their estimate is the city's portion of what we're calling the sin tax, for lack of the official name. The city's portion would be approximately $9,500 per year, and that does not include the city's portion of the sales tax, which I believe is 7.8 or in that neighborhood of the sales tax that would be collected, and the city gets its normal share of sales tax as a retail business.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goddard. My next question is, if I am a business and I want to sell marijuana, and I'm selling it, what does the city do? Because we have a rule in Woodland that we're not going to be doing that type of business. How does that work? Can you explain what the process is on the code enforcement side?
So, we have been in contact with the gentleman who owns this business. I have been in the building, and I can verify that there does not appear to be any work that would require a building permit. There does not appear to be any work that would require plumbing work or a sign permit. So none of the building or fire codes, none of the building codes have been violated. The sign code has not been violated. The zoning use code would appear to be violated, so as soon as he begins selling marijuana, retail marijuana is not a permitted use in the code, so that would represent a zoning violation. Upon receipt of a complaint, we would open a code enforcement case, and we would proceed with our code enforcement process. We've had a conversation with him. He knows it is prohibited, but we still need to follow the legal steps necessary to start and enforce a code enforcement case. We have to give him the opportunity to operate within the law, and then if he chooses not to, he would be subject to the fines as outlined in our code. And that is $50 per violation of the zoning code. And then there is some question as to whether or not there would be a violation of our business license code if he doesn't have a business license, and whether or not there would be other civil infractions would need to be seen depending upon provable violations of the code.
So, Mr. Goddard, if I just did my math real quick, the city stands to gain more in fines than it would if it allowed the activity anyway. Is that how I did some quick math here, and based upon being open 312 days, which is 6 days a week, at $50 a day, that's $15,600 a year, and that's before we even get to whether or not we have a business license violation as well. Given the numbers that you presented earlier, we're looking at $9,500, I think is what you said, and I think 0.05%, you're looking at probably 11,000 to 12,000 total a year. So just keep that in mind. I read online, and I believe everything I read online. And it told me that the city of Woodland is just allowing all this tax revenue. I mean, look at all this tax revenue we're giving up by not allowing this wonderful business into our community. So, anyway, just throwing that out there. Thank you, Mr. Goddard.
Mr. Plaza?
Mr. Goddard, just one real quick question on the $50 per violation fee or fine. Is that, so for a violation, is that each time they make a sale, that would be a separate violation, right? So wouldn't that be a $50 fine each time that they make a sale of something they're not allowed to sell in the city? Or is it $50 per day?
I would have to consult the city attorney for sure, but my inclination is that is not how we would interpret it. The zoning violation is a use of the property, and traditionally we have not applied that on a per transaction basis because land use occurs as a use, not necessarily as an individual transaction. So if this was a building code violation, we say they installed new doors without a building permit, we wouldn't charge them a code enforcement fee every time they use the door.
Well, no, because that's you put in the door once, and that's what's the violation of the code. But by selling something that is in violation, it would make sense that each time it was sold, that would be a separate violation. But I don't know. I'm not the expert, so I was just curious.
Yeah, I would interpret the zoning code as to not be the sales transaction, but would be the operation of an illegal use that's not permitted by code.
I would think, would we consider it something that, such as L&I has done with some of the restaurants in the area for COVID-related issues? That was a daily fine for continuing operations of business from the state, and I believe that was a daily fine, not a daily or a transactional fee.
And I would think we're going to need to take a look at case law and see how this has played out in other jurisdictions in courts throughout the state.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Also reading on Facebook there, I would have a question. There was some comments that the state has approved this. Has anybody communicated with the state, I'm guessing the Liquor Control Board, about whether or not they're approving this spot?
A few years back, we received, and I don't know if council sees the liquor license that come through, that, when they expire and who's applied for them. So every tavern or any business in town that sells liquor or tobacco products, they have to apply for a license to the state. So the city receives a piece of paper from the state saying, hey, so-and-so is up for expiration, they've reapplied, do you approve of this business? A few years ago we had a license come through, an application come through for retail marijuana. We sent it back to the state and said, no, this is not approved use, and the state pretty much, and I'm summarizing, came back and said, well, it's approved in the state, so it's your problem. That was pretty much the response. This isn't an us issue, this is a you issue.
I thought the law passed that it said it gave local jurisdictions the authority to approve or deny it in their localities.
And according to the business owner, Mr. Randolph.
That's exactly what you said. It's just sort of like, it's up to the city
state, the state will go ahead and authorize it, but if that is not legal in the city, then it's the city's responsibility to take care of business.
Right.
And that would be my understanding as well. But this particular business owner states that he doesn't need our permission. So, again, this activity is not occurring as of yet. However, there is some advertisement going on in a very public area. Mrs. Holland.
So, our municipal code regarding ganja and ganja-related items, some of them are from like the 90s, right?
Okay. That's a question for Mr. Goddard.
Yes.
Okay.
So
We're talking about ganja, Mr. Goddard, in our code.
the devil's lettuce. But our municipal code is such that things like they're completely opposite of what the rest of the state is doing. So like I think just kind of rough draft reading through municipal code regarding weed over the weekend. I think one of the things from the 90s was like still however much you had on your person was a misdemeanor or felony or whatever. And I think so our code isn't necessarily parallel with everybody around us, I guess, regarding that, because like the dates on them were like this was passed in 1996 and this was passed in 1988. So it kind of seems like some of those things might need addressed now that we're in the 2021, right? I mean, is that on your like to-do list for changing municipal code or updating it to this century?
So the code that we are currently implementing is Chapter 17.50. It's the Recreational Marijuana Code, and it was adopted in 2014. Whether or not it is the most effective or most up-to-date, I can't tell you that. I'm sure that in the 7 years since then, there's been a significant amount of changes in what's considered the industry normal. And we did approach the county. As a matter of fact, the gentleman in question here came to speak to the council at that time, and I want to say that was 2019, where we were talking about the need to update, and that was one of the issues that we had suggested, taking it to the Planning Commission and revisiting our code versus a simple fix of whether or not you wanted to make retail uses a permitted use. And at the time, the council decided that retail would not be a permitted use and that we did not need to revisit the code. So I am at your beck and call. So if you want me to do that, I will add that to my work plan and move it forward.
Okay, thank you. I'll think on that.
Mr. Smith.
I'm glad Councilmember Holland brought that up. It continuously seems like it's jammed on us, and we're not going through the proper channels to have marijuana sold in the city. If it was done correctly, I would be more apt to looking at it and having a pretty open mind. But it seems like it's continually jammed on us and like bully approach to try to get it done. I think if it goes back to the Planning Commission and is done thoroughly and thought out properly, it might be a little bit more sellable.
Mr. Fredericks?
Well, I'd just like to add to what Ms. Holland said. We have various sections of our Woodland Municipal Code that is definitely in need of work, and I'll raise Woodland Municipal Code Section 8.16, with which authorizes the Chief of the Public Works Department to remove, relocate, or destroy waterfowl as necessary on Horseshoe Lake between April 15th and October 15th of each year. So there's plenty of code that could probably change, this has been one that we've kept on the books, so it's a law, and if I live on the lake, I would be requesting that the Chief of Public Works Department remove 15 Canadian geese, because that, according to law, is too many waterfowl for Horseshoe Lake Park. So we do struggle with our code a little bit. I agree with Mr. Smith. I don't like the fact that it's being shoved down my throat. I was willing to have an open mind discussion about it, but when we get someone who's trying to bully his or her way in, I don't even know who it is, but that tactic doesn't fly with me, and it just puts me off even more. And I have been staunchly against this for a long time, and I was willing to have a thorough discussion about it and be willing to listen to it again and possibly be willing to approve it. But when I get this kind of stuff, that, hey, I don't care, I'll just stick you with a fine. At least that I know it's revenue we're going to get. At least you can budget that. And I've heard some great ideas about having any revenue that's raised for this go directly to our parks, which is badly needed. I agree. I don't like it shoved down my throat. So I didn't like it as a kid when someone was trying to force feed me food, and I don't like it here.
Mrs. Holland.
Talk to the person who shares a parking lot, like that business, or the people whose homes are behind it. I mean, it seems like,
Mr. Goddard?
it seems like if I had a business adjacent to it, and we shared a parking lot, I mean, there's two businesses in that parking lot.
There's 3 or 4.
Is there?
3, at least 3 businesses. Coffee and then the outdoor.
Right.
Bigfoot.
Yeah. Outdoor
Bigfoot
garden
and
stuff.
Camp Cadet.
Yeah.
Jay.
Have we reached out? Have we heard from those business owners at all, Mr. Goddard, or the homeowners adjacent to this retail business?
We have not reached to them.
Okay. And they
Or
haven't.
heard from
They
them.
haven't contacted us.
What about the property owner who owns all the property there?
The property. Does this individual own the property, or are they renting? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. I believe they are renting.
Looking on GIS, it's same owner for all of the,
okay.
everything there, the Bark
Oh, okay.
coffee shop, everything.
So maybe
It's not
maybe
the state of
businesses that
Washington?
Don't have a.
It did not appear like it was the state of Washington who owned it. I did read that on Facebook, and I did look that up.
I heard also that it had been repoed and the state owned it now, and they said it was okay for,
Wow. Well, I do believe everything I read on Facebook.
yeah.
So unless GIS is lying,
Mr.
or
Goddard.
misrepresented of it.
Mr. Goddard.
So I reached out to this gentleman. I've had several conversations with him. I met him at his business today. And just in case it might influence some of you, I wanted to give you a little background as I understand it. The gentleman in question who talked to us a couple of years ago is in a building in Kelso that is being removed, and it was taken by adverse possession. And so because of some development activity in Kelso, he lost his business location. He has had a significant amount of time to find a location, but was unable to find a location in that time. And the state is essentially forcing him out of his existing building, and within the next couple weeks, my understanding is his existing business will be torn down. And so he is not necessarily doing this to be spiteful. I would like to point out that for him that this is a business survival issue, and so approach us and try to do it in a good partnership manner, but it doesn't necessarily appear that way, and I don't believe he is participating in the online discussion in Facebook, so he may or may not have his side being told. So I just wanted to throw that out there to give you a little bit of understanding of where this business owner is coming from.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. All right. So more to come on that, but at this time, there's no enforcement action needed because there's nothing happening at this point. And the last thing that I have on my report this evening is the department head's workload. As you could hear from the discussion over at Public Works, they're very busy right now. It's springtime, we're right into summer, so expect to see a lot more work out there. Same thing with our police department. They are also always, we're training 2 new individuals. Well, 1 new individual right now. We've got a new one coming out of the academy here pretty soon, so they're going to be on heavy workload as well, getting those folks up to speed and getting them trained up on the ways of Woodland, which is very exciting. And then also Mr. Goddard obviously is dealing with a number of items as well, to include the discussion we just had and dealing with Planning Commission. So we're all taking on a lot, and with all of that, Mr. Boyce's time and all the department heads' time, to include the Clerk-Treasurer's office, is being eaten up a lot by public disclosure requests at this time. So we're doing the best that we can to make sure that our daily work is being completed and the necessary projects and infrastructure upgrades are being done in a timely manner, but understand too there's some administrative stuff behind the scenes that are going on as well that has actually taken up a lot of time of city staff. So we're doing the best we can, and I think that we're being extremely successful at this moment. So thank you. Questions for me?
I did,
Mrs. Holland.
to answer Councilmember Frederick's thing about WQCC, there was one January 19th. I looked at my emails.
Okay.
January 19th, and then there was one March 3rd, but I think we both missed it. Monty and I both missed it. And I have not seen the minutes from that since.
Okay.
I Googled it also. At the bottom, it said June 3rd is the next meeting, pending governor's orders on where it's going to be. So I think they're going to be in person, and the city's supposed to be hosting it.
Okay.
According to Woodland's website.
We just need a permission slip from the governor.
From what we did.
I don't think you guys should reach out. Maybe something.
That's a Thursday. I will verify that and see. You were saying the 3rd, Mr. Smith?
That's what it looked like.
Tentatively scheduled. Okay.
Put up off of Woodland Civic Way.
Okay.
June 2nd, sorry.
June said you said 3rd. I was gonna say normally it's on a Wednesday, so that was the Thursday. Kind of threw me a little bit there.
2nd, 2021.
Okay.
The city is hosting it, so.
Okay. I will get some information on that and see if we're moving forward on that and let you know. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to consent items this evening.
Move adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to action item D, authorize mayor to sign Southwest Washington Regional Transportation Planning Organization amend and restated interlocal agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
I have no discussion.
Councilmember Rounds.
No discussion.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take the roll on action item D, authorize the mayor to sign Southwest Washington Regional Transportation Planning Organization amended and restated interlocal agreement. That's a mouthful. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action item E, authorize mayor to sign agreement for Garrick Street repair project.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with Precision Paving Plus LLC for the Garrick Street repairs project to be done prior to grind and overlay.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
Yeah, I want to be clear this, so if I understood this was put on as a placeholder for discussion, and that's why it was added to the agenda the way it was added. And so the only thing that I would add for transparency purposes is that this please be updated online to reflect what we received here at the dais. So if a citizen wants to go on and see what action we've just taken, that it is very clear with what we're doing here, that we're not trying to pull the wool over the eyes of anyone or to not be transparent. And I do appreciate the concern from the non-citizen, the one concern that we received. So I appreciate it. But I think we should move this forward because I think this is best for the taxpayers of Woodland. As previously communicated by Mr. Smith in his report, it does significantly reduce the cost associated with this. and it moves this project down the line quicker so we can get it done.
Thank you. Mrs. Rounds.
I concur with Mr. Fredericks.
Further discussion?
I would just like to reiterate that this is grant dollars, and it's bringing more money into our city with a small cost to the city, and I think it would be a good thing for us.
I would just like to add.
Mrs. Holland.
That all we ever hear from people is complaining about the roads. And the city needs to fix the roads. So our public works director has found a way to fix a very big portion of the road, with 90% of it coming from a grant. And most people don't understand what a grant is. That means free money. So taxpayer dollars, their portion is only 10%. So just throwing that out there, that people are actually listening to the taxpayers of Woodland to get roads worked on, and this is how it happens. So that's my comment there.
Yeah, add to that. I mean,
Mr. Plaza?
I was going to have a smart aleck comment.
Okay.
I decided to keep it.
Mr. Fredericks.
you're making progress, Mr. Plaza. Ms. Holland, I think, when you ran for council, you raised the issue up of why haven't we applied for grants? There's so many grant dollars that are available. This is a prime example of us living the promise, so to speak, and what really has been, why we've been able to do that is because we've had successful people such as Ms. Coleman in a position to be able to write those grants for us. If you look prior to Ms. Coleman's arrival, it just didn't happen. We did not have the expertise, we did not have the drive, the desire to get things done, and I think that was an integral part, is you have to have effective staff in order to move some of these grants through. And I think Ms. Coleman, with Mr. Goddard's assistance, and Mr. Boyce, they have really taken it to the next level to bring some of those tax dollars home to stay here in Woodland. So you raise a very great point with the fact that this is grant money coming back to Woodland, but it's because of staff that was able to get it done, write the grant, execute it, and get it done timely. So kudos to staff. They got this done.
It's why I fangirl on Ms. Coleman so much, because of the amount of money. I think just in our Public Works meeting tonight, she has, just in like 2 or 3 things, was over $1 million in grant funds.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Another question?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
So prior to me being on the council, previous council member was telling me about how there was an increase to the public's, the tax of the water sewer tax, and the reason why that was increased was so that they can have some money in the bank account to be able to match the funds for some of these grants. So it's important that we have money to be able to match these grants, because if you don't have it, other cities are getting this money. So this is why these increases have taken place, is to make sure we have the money to get these grants.
All right, seeing nothing further, we'll take a roll on action item E, authorize mayor to sign agreement for Garrick Street repair project. Let me pull that out again here, just to make sure we get it on the, what I did. Authorizing the mayor to sign agreement with Precision Paving Plus LLC for the Garrick Street repairs project to be begun prior to grind and overlay. Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman. Did I get you?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Plaza.
that's 8.
Still aye.
I said
Aye.
Plaza. I said Plaza.
Aye.
Who did I miss? Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Smith.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
I just know I'm supposed to do this randomly. That's all I know. It's not supposed to be the same.
Did you get Graham?
I got Mrs. Graham.
No, I
No?
don't think you did.
Long time ago. I've got
okay.
7 marks on my paper. The ayes have it. Moving on to action item F. Ordinance number 1484, amend city council rules regarding dates of committee meetings, final reading.
Move to adopt ordinance number 1484.
Second?
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, second by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Fredericks.
Only changes here, we're just changing meeting dates and times.
Councilmember Plaza.
What he said.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take the roll on action item F, ordinance number 1484. Councilmember Graham. Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Did I miss somebody?
No.
I think he got us
You
all.
have 7.
I've only got 6 marks.
They were all ayes.
What?
Yes, nobody voted no.
Chapman, did I call on you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that ends the regular portion of our meeting. The time is now 8:05. I'm going to call a 5-minute recess, and then we will go into workshop to discuss community development and vacant billable lands updates with Mr. Goddard. And in that time, so it is 8:05, we'll return at 8:10.
Do I need to pause this or?
No.
Good for five?
Yeah, if we pause it, it won't come back. So we have to, just in council, please keep in mind, we are still recording.
Saying that no.
This
Conference is no longer being recorded.
YouTube.
I have a question.
So maybe
Yes.
funding that opened up
seems
to be able to have more
like
revenue elsewhere is what he was getting at.
75%
So
of
that was he
people
saying.
here
He was telling me, he's like, you know,
don't
we
realize
increased
that Lewis
this.
River
He goes,
Yes.
because we don't
is
ever
not a
have enough
city
money to
road.
match these grants.
And
He's like,
so things like
had to
that.
increase
Yeah,
the
So-
but if we want to put a sidewalk on, we got to pay for it.
Right, but I almost wonder just for,
Yeah.
remember how you did like a State of the Union?
Yes.
That one year and kind of explained to the public what the heck was going on for the next year?
Wait, and I haven't done one since.
I know.
We should probably do one.
Well, COVID.
Yeah.
Isn't there a way maybe
and it's been a
that
huge difference, the amount of money she's bringing in.
Ms. Coleman and Travis
Yeah,
could maybe
so- and
just
10 times
do a
over
lot,
she's paid her way.
or go,
We could.
you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
to explain things.
Update what's going on.
Thing with,
Right, and this is
having
why
a
I'm
city
doing it
administrator
and how we're
to
doing
make
it
sure,
and.
you know, the history
News
stays
River
with somebody
Road
to be able to make sure
stuff,
things are
you have
done.
to talk to the state.
No, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, I'll take that back to the team and see if there's,
You're
because
right,
I
no mayor after that.
think there was, I'm sorry, what?
86 man.
Are we 86ing me? Are you taking over, Mr. Smith?
No,
Should I watch my back?
we're just gonna vote you out permanently.
Oh, okay. Why would I do now? Is it the mustache? You're jealous.
You're looking great.
You're jealous.
12 days for that, huh? Wow.
Stop.
If you deal with mine, we can win.
I was just
But
talking
no, I'll
about,
bring that up. I'll bring that up and see what we can do.
talking about his resignation speech, you know, that he's not rerunning now. We needed to go to just a city administrator.
Who is this?
Okay.
Hey.
Oh.
I mean, it'll be on Voice of Brooklyn in 15 minutes.
Why are you guys trying to get rid of me all of a sudden? Like, I'm sitting right here. I still have quite a number of years to go. You're welcome.
It's exciting though. That was like the first thing I opened today was, okay, who's filed? And then I just refreshed them throughout the day. Anything exciting?
I've only seen one.
There's 3.
3.
Oh, there's 3. I'm sorry. I saw Mr.
Careful how you
Plaza.
say 3.
What?
Especially if you're on Jeopardy contestant. If you say 3 wrong, you'll get them all
Oh,
saying that you're
what is 3?
You know what I'm talking about.
Are we being recorded?
We are.
That's okay.
YouTube is still
I'm fine
going.
with that.
Okay, here we go. Let me get on with Mr. Goddard real quick.
The Jeopardy thing?
No, what happened?
Vaguely heard
I
it,
didn't hear-
but anymore I can't listen to anything. It's just nuts.
Okay,
Comes out the next time. Puts up 1.
okay.
Wins the second night. And well, won twice.
Okay.
Comes out the third night. I win 3 times. And that's it. White supremacist signal. 467 former contestants of Jeopardy wrote in a letter saying that he needs to apologize for his
saying
display of white
Well,
supremacy.
Because that's the number 6, baby, in sign language. It should have been Trace.
Maybe if he didn't do the 1 and the 2 and first, maybe okay, maybe you could read into that. But
Woo! Wow, I didn't know that. Interesting. Wasn't aware of that.
the news that nobody reads.
The news that nobody reads, and that probably just, well, I just lost 3 minutes of my life, so, I mean,
You'll never get that.
I'll never get that back after that discussion.
Just don't show us the 3 minutes on your fingers.
Mr. Goddard,
Yeah.
can you see my mustache? I'm very proud of it.
I cannot.
See it? Oh, How about now?
There I can see it,
How
yeah.
about now?
Carl
Tell Mr.
suggested
Goddard
a
he has
little
5
Junior
minutes.
College.
Oh, Mr. Goddard, I'm told that you have 5 minutes for the next portion.
Maybe if you dyed there, Will, you know?
No, I do.
I have my timer.
Hey, real quick, I've got it up, but I need to know there's 2 links that are there. Let me pull it back up again. Do you want the presentation?
Not the data.
Not the data. Okay, got it. Okay, so the 7 slides that
You can pull. Yep.
How do I get a slideshow on this? This is weird. Guess I don't.
There should be a TV screen next to it, or on your controls there.
Fit to page.
When you hover on it,
Okay. No. Let me see over here. Oh, maybe right here. Maybe right here. There. Got it. Kind of. Let me see if I can just make it bigger. Okay. All right. What time is it? All right, we've got. Where's everybody? Okay. Of course he did. He waited till the last minute.
and do you want to test it online? Because right now I can't see anything.
I don't. Oh, I have to share my screen, right? Let me see if I can share
Yep.
my screen. Share screen. Nope. Tools.
And it should be a button right next to your microphone.
Oh, it says screen on it. That one?
Yep.
Maybe that one? I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Oh my
There
God.
we go. It looks
I'm
like it's over.
so high tech. Stand by. And I'm running this, right? People can see your
I'm
screen.
waiting to see it. Yep, there we go.
Okay. Okay. Gosh, I'm amazing. There we go. Hurry up, Mr. Fredericks. We're waiting on you.
Well, Monty's too.
Yes, but it's rewarding, and that's what matters.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because everyone is so nice to you.
Nothing like 2-hour trip to Safeway.
All right. I'm laughing because I know exactly what you're talking about. Where's my record button? There it is.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, the time is 8:12. We are 2 minutes late back from break. I apologize for those online. And at this time, we're going into a workshop to discuss vacant buildable lands update from Mr. Goddard, our Community Development Director. Mr. Goddard.
Thank you. So, this is a relatively quick discussion, hopefully. The document that you have before you is a draft. It is our first draft, and it doesn't require action by the council. It's simply my analysis of the vacant buildable lands that is left within the city. It is not a finite document, and it reaches no conclusions other than whether or not we have a adequate land supply left based on our comprehensive plan projections. So I will try and keep it at high level. The first section on page 1 is entitled Commercial Districts, and it counts the number of single-family residential units that we have in commercial zoning, and that is 56 units, and it breaks it down by zoning type. So if you could scroll to the next page, there we go. So that gives you an idea in the C1, C2, and C3 zones. And my conclusion is that I expect no additional new residential units in the commercial zones based on our existing regulations. The next section is the industrial analysis, and we have 22 residential units in our industrial zones. And again, I expect zero growth in our industrial zone, even though residential uses are allowed as managers or workmen's units in some businesses. The next section is residential zoning, and I start with medium density residential, and there's an analysis section there, and basically what it says is we do have some medium-density residential capacity for about 391 units, based upon my estimate. So there's a single-family residential lot, 41 townhomes by the airport, 189 units by Green Mountain Road, and 160 units for what I'm calling the B. Young RV site, because it was the 2019 comp plan amendment for 5.52 acres behind B. Young. In the residential high-density zoning district, there are 14 parcels, and the carrying capacity in those high-density residential is about 220, and that's an estimate based upon the existing structures and the developability of those properties. And this property in question, the largest 6 acres, is along Lewis River Road by the church, and it is a large portion of floodway, which is not buildable. And they would have to concentrate the growth in approximately 30, or I estimated about 40% of the lot, and there's a height limitation. So because of the height limitation and the area limitation due to the need for parking, it's entirely possible they won't be able to fully develop. So our high-density residential has limitations on it. Our low-density residential, I estimated our carrying capacity of about 247 additional lots.
Mr. Goddard, I'm gonna stop you. I'm not tracking. Where am I in the right spot for the screen?
Sorry, down one page.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't keeping up. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, I'm confused.
There you go. So this is just the text version of what it tells you if you want to read it. How I evaluate the existing properties, the existing sizes, and carrying capacity analysis. And so on the very last line of this page, you'll see that what it says is the buildable low-density residential, the single-family homes, it's 247 units. That's 150 units for the Woodland Commerce Center, Woodland Creek residential subdivision, and also Heron Meadows, which is the 31 units. After those 2 subdivisions, which were approved within the last 12 months, our 20-year land supply looks like it can support about 66 residential single-family units within our existing city limits. And the next section essentially gives you an idea of how I reached this capacity analysis. And we essentially went into our GIS system and pulled the data files associated for each lot. I identified that data in an attached file, and it's about 15 pages of extremely small type. A lot of the data is not in that report, but it gives you an idea of how many single-family home lots are available and the size range of the existing vacant parcels. And so I looked for structures that were either, or lots where there was either no structure or it was valued at 0. I looked for single-family residential lots within subdivisions but had not been built on. I accounted for new construction over the last several years, and then I separated out lots with constraints like floodplains, steep slopes, and wetlands, and that's how I arrived at the numbers that I did. Simply because we have such a small land supply of vacant land, I just went through and did it all manually. The next page is essentially the conclusions. So I subtracted out, first thing I did is I looked at our comprehensive plan, and our comp plan called for 619 multifamily units and 673 single-family low-density units. I separated out the construction. Unfortunately, we haven't had any multifamily construction since 2016. As a matter of fact, we have had 5 of those units burn, so we actually have more of a need now than we did in 2016. Down below, you see a color-coded If you scroll down just a bit, Mr. Mayor. Color-coded, this is based on pink is our commercial zone on our map, blue is the industrial zone on our map, and the yellow is the residential zoning on our map. So you can see the number of parcels, the acreage of available land, the existing units, projected maximum units, and adjusted net units. So basically looking at development trends and correcting for floodplain and floodway limitations. So although we could fit 1,874 units maximum, our development history leads me to believe we're looking at 858 units. So given that we were looking for about 1,100, we have a land deficit of about 247 units based upon low-density development and our shrinking land base. And so that's about 40% of what we thought we would have in 2016. And by 2021, we're actually behind by 7%. So we're now 47% less than what we expected to be at this time. So I did a quick analysis of what I think some of the factors affecting that are, and that is construction is lower density. The existing zoning allows for density to occur lower than our goals of our comprehensive plan state. Development tools incentivize low density, but the code actually incentivizes low density development, even though our comprehensive plan says we're trying to encourage higher density goals, which is 20 units per acre and 4 units per acre. We are not even currently meeting our 4 units per acre density for low density residential. So we're sprawling even faster than our low density sprawl goals. And things would be even worse if we hadn't made the changes we made in 2019. Specifically, we made 2 big changes. Down by the airport, we changed about 6 acres on the river. The Woodland Commerce Center, medium density, and the Young RV. So without those units, we would be even in worse shape with our land supply than before. So, and then the final conclusions are that we need to make some, or we can correct this problem by making some minor changes to our code, which would help us absorb some of that desired growth. And that's 9 minutes and 47 seconds by my watch.
Mrs. Rounds.
Until we get exit 21 fixed, I think we're probably all right with the amount of homes and things that are being built right now, because we've got to get exit 21 fixed before we can worry about having a lot more housing, because we just can't handle it.
Well, and part of the issue too that we're seeing with Exit 21, not only do we need to fix, but obviously we need to fix it for our neighbors that don't live within the city, that are contributing to the issue and the housing growth that is occurring out in the county areas on both sides. So we agree with you. That's why we're actively seeking out some help for that, so we can get that done. Mr. Fredericks?
I was really sorry not to see that winery go over there by the sewer processing facility. Didn't think that was really a good spot for one, but maybe they'll come back some other time. The urban growth boundary. At what point do we have that discussion about, what we need to look at? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you fix exit 21 first before you look at expanding the urban growth boundary? What does that look like, in your opinion, Mr. Goddard?
Good question. I'm breathing to try and calm my heart rate, because this is a passionate issue for me. The opinion of the county planning department is we need to complete this exercise. We need to update our comprehensive plan, and we need to provide additional documentation before we start that conversation. And we are filling in those pieces, and we are trying to develop a strategy for how to approach this. without having to wait additional years to gather the data that they want to see. So this is part of the piece. What it says is we are currently doing okay. We are on track to meet our goals, except for our except for our single-family goals. But in the case of expanding our urban growth boundary, the single-family residential development has the lowest lead time necessary. So in other words, as soon as we expand our urban growth boundary, an annexation can occur quickly, and residential development of single-family homes, construction occurs very quickly. So the fact that we have several years of land supply left is just fine, because by the time we annex and develop, that land will start to fill the gap once our existing land supply starts to dwindle.
Okay. Anything further for the workshop? Questions for Mr. Goddard, or concerns or thoughts? When is the next update for the comprehensive plan, Mr. Goddard?
So we had talked about trying to do that in 2021, but as I mentioned last month, that is kind of on hold, hopefully till COVID, and we will have a discussion about when we want to try and kick that off.
Yesterday.
And whether or not we need to do the county first or have that discussion after our update.
Gotcha. Okay.
I thought we needed the county's blessing to change the,
Urban growth boundary?
yes.
We do. And that's why we're having to put in the work, because we're asking them to do, we're asking for, it's kind of weird. So we're asking them to do this, but they're saying, hey, you can't ask us to do that until you do this, this, and this. So we're doing all the that's what Mr. Goddard's saying. We're doing all the work behind the scenes, but we internally, and now my heart's starting to rate us a little bit myself, Mr. Goddard, because we know that they will not be satisfied with whatever it is that we produce for them. And we will still be told no.
So, Mr. Goddard, if they don't get on board with what actually needs to happen in Woodland, right? From an activism standpoint, what exactly, like, who would one need to accost and harass in a nice way on a county level to get them to accept that Woodland has needs that need to be met, that are not being currently met? Since they take our money, it's kind of one of those things. They take our money and we're not even getting like a handshake after.
Well,
So
the commissioner would be a different story right now.
how would that work out?
Easy, Mr. Goddard.
I don't know if the mayor wants.
Easy, Mr.
I don't know
Goddard.
if the mayor wants to. The answer might be at the ballot box, but the mayor might not appreciate that answer. So
I think that is a great question, Mrs. Holland. I'll take it from here, Mr. Goddard. That is a great question, Mrs. Holland. Unfortunately, Mr. Goddard's unable to answer that question for you at this time due to the fact that he's part of the executive team. We are working diligently. Yeah, we're working diligently behind the scenes to provide the necessary information to those that are requiring it. To answer your question on what we need to do, I would say a louder voice from Woodland to our officials at the county level.
So, am I correct, is it the county planning commission or whoever that group is, are they who makes the decision, or is it county commissioner?
when we submit an application, it is very similar to our process. The staff will do a technical analysis. The planning commission will listen to that analysis and make a recommendation to the county commissioners, and the county commissioners would ultimately vote to make a decision, yay or nay.
So, from my experience recently and what I watched kind of happen regarding a potential development outside city limits, like 500 and some odd Woodlanders commented to the planning commission, the county planners, planning committee, whatever they are, that little group of people. And so, the way I understand the process to work is kind of like us. The planning commission can, or planning committee, whatever, can say, hey, we think this is a great idea, and council can say, too bad, don't care, not gonna happen. And that's kind of the same there as the planning commission can say, yes, we don't like this, we agree with you, Woodlanders, and then the county commissioners can still overrule them and do what they want anyway. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, because ultimately it is a legislative decision whether the county wants to change their comprehensive plan.
So what happens, like, so we run out of places to put people, and people here seem to posse up every time a multi-family apartment complex even gets mentioned. So what happens if, like, what does that mean for Woodland? If you don't allow any more apartments because apartments equals poor people, then what does that mean? Because you have kind of a nice guideline here of what type of housing you want to have around Woodland and why.
Unfortunately, it's not that simple, because even this report shows that we still have adequate land capacity for multifamily. In fact, we have 3 sites for apartment or multifamily developments. Those can be owned or rentals. And what tends to happen is, for example, on Green Mountain Road, they're proposing 189 units. That 189 units might represent a 15% bump in city population from a single development. So is that a market correction, or is that, or will the market absorb that, and we won't have demand for an additional apartment complex? Or it's entirely possible that we could have 3 developers building at the same time, and we won't have any additional demand for a decade. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. What the county would argue is their development is independent of our development, and we're in the frustrating position of, if we update our comprehensive plan looking at our existing meager land supply, we would then request the county to expand our urban growth boundary, and if they disagree, then we know what our next 15 or 20 years are going to look like. If they want to expand the urban growth boundary, all bets are off, because if they approve an expansion, then we will need to redo everything that we just did, only we're now looking at a bigger footprint. So we could conceivably go through the entire comprehensive plan process in a year, and then take 6 months off and have the county make us start all over again. Or we could have no growth expectation, and we are what we are, print in the future. So it's difficult to exactly predict how that would happen.
I was totally into that entire explanation. Thank you. That was a lot, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Did that answer her question?
Yeah, she said thank you.
Yeah.
She was very appreciative of your answer. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Goddard, I'll ask one last question here. Does this take into account the flag lot situation and the tiny home type projects that are that we're working on right now, code-wise.
So it does not. This looks at vacant buildable land.
Okay.
The one thing that is happening within this city is, for example, Washington Street, CC Street, there are some existing big lots, and rather than seeing a little ADU to help them get by, we're seeing bulldozed houses with subdivisions with big houses on small lots, because our code does not allow for the tiny homes or the ADUs or efficient growth.
Okay.
Just for the record, I want to let you know that the Planning Commission Chair, Tel Jensen, had a great comment that really resonated with the other Planning Commission members and the staff, and that is, when it comes to residential development within the city, residents should not be expected to have shocking change. But it's not unreasonable for everyone in the community to expect some change to occur. And those redevelopment that's occurring, the way our code is structured, it's shocking changes to small neighborhoods. And he believes that the changes that we were discussing before will help lessen that shock.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Goddard. All right, the time is now 8:36. We are out of workshop. And to one last announcement this evening, and that is the WQCC is June 2nd. And we will get an agenda and meeting schedule out to council and the other entities. So, Mr. Randolph,
Is it in person or is
we don't know yet.
You don't
It
know.
depends what the rules are. More than likely, I think it will be virtual. I don't think the rules will be in place yet.
Man up and call it.
By the governor at that time. Mr. Randolph, are you available on the 2nd? Because I have a feeling we'll be discussing. But, okay, we'll see. Okay. All right, with that, we are to the moment for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Round, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The time is 8:37. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and
This
enjoy
conference is
your
no
week.
longer being recorded.
And we will keep you posted. Are you getting that one there?